advised that proper notice has been given by the Township Council in accordance with the Sunshine Law in the following manner. Notice advertised in the Village Penny Times and Camden Courier Post on January 11, 2017, and posted on the bulletin board on the same date. Mr. Burrell?
Here.
Mrs. Floyd? Mr. Ford? Mr. O'Connell?
Here.
Mr. Peck?
Here. So we have just one action item, and that is Resolution 2017-95, and that is Resolution of the Township authorizing the hiring of Martin Appraisal Associates to conduct a real estate appraisal of the property addressed as 32 River Drive.
Second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Ketchum?
Aye. So our work session agenda, the first item is Schneider Electric. The folks from Schneider Electric are here and are going to make a wonderful presentation of all the things we're doing wrong. And we won't hold it against you. And so I would just ask, just for everyone's education, just introduce yourself and then everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Dan Riggle with Schneider. I'm an account executive representing clients in this area.
I'm Zia Qureshi. I'm the subject matter expert for water, wastewater management.
Sam Ringelberg, Dan Riggle's right-hand man.
Great.
Okay.
So Dan, you have the floor, or who's going to make?
I'll take the lead and then these guys will jump in later.
Okay.
Great, thank you guys for the time. So I believe Jeff passed along some electronic copies. You guys all received that. There was a report and a copy of this. Just out of curiosity, I won't be upset if you didn't, but did anyone open it and take a look?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
As I said, it was very helpful on several nights when I was trying to get to sleep
Uh-huh.
to start reading.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the full report was 71 pages. You know, we've got a lot of the details in there. We tried to distill it down really into kind of the main points for the purposes of this conversation. I think between the three of us, we have maybe 15 or 20 minutes of information. Please jump in and cut us off if you have specific questions. There's two more there. Yeah, so I guess the bottom line is, you know, we were here, or I was here, a couple months ago, kind of pitching the concept of taking a look at the sewer plant, taking a look at this building, really trying to identify where there might be opportunities for cost savings, for capital improvements. And I think we've taken that first cut and come up with some different ideas and options, and I think really the bottom line is there's a pretty good opportunity for Delran Township as far as driving cost savings in this building, improving comfort, improving some of the capabilities as far as actual process treatment at the wastewater treatment plant, and you know, really just achieving some of the capital needs and you know, reducing costs within the township's budget. So I think that's, you know, that's the bottom line here. You know, we took a look at over, you know, the last couple of months since I was here, did a walkthrough at the sewer plant, did a walkthrough of this building, spent a pretty good amount of time with both Jeff Williams and Jerry DeSanto, you know, multiple conversations with Jeff, analyzed several years of utility bills, looked at some of the capital improvement items and past audits, and really just kind of put all this together and formulated some of our ideas. So I think one thing to keep in mind in looking at this is nothing is really set in stone. I mean, we're not coming here to say, you know, here's a final project for you guys to go and implement. It's more, does this process make sense? And I think from our perspective, it certainly does, or it certainly can. So as far as financial impact, you know, from looking at energy and operational costs, our experience and some of the specifics within this plant, we think we can reduce the energy and the O&M budget by around $376,000 annually, which may seem like a lot, and it is, and we'll touch on part of the reason why that is, and what you'll see from that pie chart on the front page there is a lot of it's coming from the sewer plant. You know, that's, like most towns, that's where most of the energy is used, so that's also where most of the opportunity lies, and I think through this ESIP mechanism, Energy Savings Improvement Program, for you guys who may or may not recall, you know, really the idea is capitalizing on those savings. So, year after year, if you're taking 15 years of savings that's developed and measured and verified by a third-party company, capitalizing that, what we're looking at is probably $4 to $5.5 million of actual project funding by leveraging third-party financing. So, if you guys were to move forward, we would go out to the market and help secure third-party financing through a tax-exempt lease purchase, through refunding bonds, potentially for the sewer plant scope, the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Trust. So there's various methodologies out there. I think, really the whole goal is, trying to get over that hurdle of, what can you fit within a year's budget, because that's always very difficult, and can we, take advantage of a longer term perspective and capitalize some of those dollars. So another thing I want to reiterate from when we were up here last is kind of the approach. So at this point, this is really just hopefully giving you guys some information to help you make a decision, right? Does this make sense? Is this worth exploring further? And I think really the next steps would be, if you guys want to move forward, we can hash things out or provide more information, but for going down this route, there's a standard RFP process, probably kind of similar between how you would hire like an architect or an engineer, and then also, how you might look for a contractor, where you're looking at qualifications, but you're also looking at pricing, you're also looking at actual scope and technical capabilities of a company. That really would be the next step, and then, like I said, any additional information or questions we can answer, we can get into that. But one quick point on that is, the overall process is slightly different, whereas an energy services company under the New Jersey ESIP law, which is really just the framework which guides these types of projects, the energy services company really takes ownership of the project from start to finish, and working with the township, working with the engineer, potentially working with financial advisors, but really kind of taking accountability of the process from start to finish, and working closely with you guys to come up with a project that makes sense. So I think, again, from our perspective, I think there's a good opportunity for financial savings. I think there's some capital needs that we worked with Jeff Williams and Jeff Hatcher to potentially identify, and I think some of the sustainability benefits, for example, if we look at solar, or job creation, if we're driving construction activity that's not only beneficial to the town financially, but is creating economic activity. It's a lot of positive stories that can be told. So I think I'll pause there if you guys have any questions, and then I'll let these guys jump in. Anything at this point?
No, so that'd be great. I'd like to see, kind of step us through, not in a long drawn out way, but just kind of say, hit the high points, kind of an executive summary as you move forward in the different areas, just so that we have an idea of what you're looking at. And I'm also curious to know if what you're proposing is to do everything all at once, or to phase things in.
Yeah, so I'll take the second part of that first. Typically, you can approach this on a phased basis because of like the ESIP legislative framework. There's various hoops you have to jump through as far as project financing and third-party review and approval. So a lot of times, maybe you phase the construction, but you at least kind of develop the plan in one chunk. Although you can certainly phase it more as far as going through the different items. So on the back page, or the page with the couple tables, it says opportunities and sewer plant at the top. Really we, on the left-hand side, opportunities, identified everything that we felt may be applicable to the town. So at the municipal complex, to start, we really broke it into a couple of buckets. One being infrastructure, which is a lot of the core needs, right? Roofing, which I know you guys are planning for. That was something we included just because we, at the time we were aware that was a need. You guys may handle that on your own, which is fine. And then, we looked at mechanical systems. I think that was a big issue in this building, where you've got, original boilers, older mechanical systems, and I think comfort issues in various areas of the building, and different ways to address that, whether we're doing, a complete change out or some sort of hybrid system. And then, a lot of the other kind of infrastructure dealt with the physical building, so looking at the roofing again, and also air sealing, insulation around the exterior, because how much you heat or cool a building is very much determined by what the insulative value is of the facility. And then on the efficiency side, I think really the biggest opportunities are along the lines of lighting, doing interior and exterior lighting. I think you guys have started to do some of the parking lot stuff, but as far as the interior of this building, the lighting is older, and that's probably the biggest opportunity to save dollars. That in addition to the solar. So if you replace the roof with basically the building you have here, I mean, it's a big flat roof. There's not a lot of mechanical equipment up there. There's maybe 1 or 2 units, but a lot of times we'll go up on a roof and there's stuff scattered all over the place. But with a new roof and the utility rates that the municipal complex is paying, we estimated pretty conservatively in here $25,000 in savings just from the solar piece annually, but I think it could be more than that. And I think that would be something we could dig into at the next phase here. And I think with that, Sam, maybe I can ask you to expand on any of those, or maybe just focus a little bit on the mechanical, because I think that was a big
Let's steal this
big deal. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I want, Gary, right?
Yes.
You made the comment earlier, all the stuff that we're doing wrong.
Right.
Can I spin that slightly?
Sure.
You have a boiler here from 1970.
It's vintage.
That's an impressive, you still have a working steam boiler from 1970. You also have a control system that is still, call it still functioning. It's like a car engine, it's pittering and pattering along. And that's causing a lot of the comfort issues.
Right.
But hats off to your town for operating a boiler from 1970. I mean,
Hey,
it's not quite a Model T, but
that was from the first 100 years of the
Yeah.
township.
so
I'm sure we're not efficient, okay, but at the same time, we weren't spending money, just spending money, so
absolutely.
that's
And
why, yeah.
You
And I think we've reached our point now to consider getting to the, upgrading our stuff, so.
Yeah, so when I looked at your mechanical room, it's a big open space. You've got those 2 boilers. You also have 2 chillers and a cooling tower. That plus a couple of air handlers in there make up the heating and cooling system. The controls that operate that piece of equipment are pneumatic. What that means is that it uses compressed air, and that compressed air goes to a thermostat. The thermostat dilates how much pressure, sends that signal back, and the mechanical systems operate that way. So it's
Everything.
it's pre-98, pre-Windows 95. It's dated. It's still functioning. Again, it's pittering and pattering, and that's causing a lot of the comfort issues.
Right.
So when I looked at it, I kind of broke it down into 3 options. The first option, looking at the steam boiler plants that you have right now, or the boilers that you have, and trying to optimize that system as much as we can. Drive as much efficiency out of that steam system, leaving the boilers in place. That, as you kind of said, we were able to push that capital cost on kind of down the road. We don't squeeze as much energy efficiency out of it, but we do the best we absolutely can with that. Also, so in the chart here, options 1, 2, and 3 kind of broken out. Also in kind of option 1, we'd want to replace the pneumatic controls. Like I said, these are the things that are pittering and pattering and that are causing a lot of the comfort issues. Getting that to a DDC allows you to better know what's going on in the building, as well as better control it. Within option 2, the main difference there being switching the multi-zone air handlers that are also original to the building.
Where are you when you're
Sure.
saying that?
So if you see on the back, right here,
I got you down here.
down here. Yep.
Okay.
Option 2 Really, the only difference kind of being that we would replace those air handlers with what we call variable air volume, and install boxes downstream to allow more individual control of the airflow going into different offices. You know, depending on what's in a space, like a ceiling fan, light load, projectors, you know, spaces have different levels of heating and cooling needed. Going to a variable air volume mechanical methodology allows you to better achieve that comfort. Finally, kind of in option 3, this is addressing those 1970 steam boilers. This would be replacing those with a hot water, condensing hot water boiler. So to give you perspective, a steam boiler from 1970s, best case scenario, we're probably somewhere around 70% efficient. New condensing boiler, depending on the outside air temperature, operates somewhere between 92 degrees or 92% efficiency and 96. So it'd be a substantial jump in efficiency, but there is, you know, boilers are not cheap. They're like new cars. So
Let me ask you a quick. First of all, on the 3 options, are there prices associated? First of all, like what the cost would be, number 1,
So,
and then let me just, I mean, that's, and number 2. I guess my other question would be savings on efficiency. So long-term savings.
absolutely.
So I'm looking, I mean, just for me, I would like to see what each was cost-wise and also what the efficiency savings is through, you know, once we do either one of these.
Yeah,
That's what
we certainly can give a ballpark cost estimate and a ballpark savings estimate. I don't think we have in the business case.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, you know, we don't want to provide like a false sense of accuracy, right? Like, if we don't, you know, if we're not within a certain bandwidth on the numbers, we don't want to put numbers in there, but I think the fact of the matter is, you know, that's required as part of the RFP to come up with numbers, and certainly during the project development phase, really how we would probably approach this is kind of break it into 2 steps, right? So the first step would be, you know, further refining these ideas and putting numbers to them, both on the cost side as well as on the savings side, so that, you know, you guys could decide, what do we want to do here? You know, option 1, option 2, option 3, or none of them.
Right. But those are the critical pieces, because I know if I was going to put money into something, I would want to know the return.
Yeah.
And if it's a positive return, I'd be happy. And if one brings more of a positive, and it may cost a little more, but yet it pays more in the long run.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's yeah.
But that would be the next
Yes,
step.
that's what I was saying.
Next down the road.
And let me quick clarify, all 3 of these options, you could do option 1 today. Option 2 is not eliminated, you would just progress and
No, I
progress.
got you.
So it's not.
But there may be more cost associated.
Absolutely.
If you were to do the first, and then
Yes.
you eventually would go to the second, rather than just doing the third, let's say, right away type thing. So,
Absolutely.
and I get you, okay. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Dan, would you like me to highlight anything else?
Only if there's others who want to.
I'll let you quick glance at the municipal complex solution opportunities. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask right now.
Yeah, so I think kind of coming back to that question, I mean, at this stage, it's really presenting some of the opportunities, ideas. We'll you know, transition over to the sewer plant opportunities, and I think in moving forward, if you guys did move forward during that project development phase, we would give obviously more information to actually make decisions and, you know, work with you guys, work with your engineer to come up with what is a project that makes sense. And I think, you know, the fact of the matter is, like many towns, you know, you guys have more needs, more capital needs than you can typically budget for, and I think within this process as well, you know, can we come up with enough savings within the budget to pay for everything? No. I mean, we can usually do pretty good, and I think as far as $4 to $5 million, I mean, that's a pretty substantial investment from a budget neutral type of project. So I think, you know, that's another thing we would need to discuss is, you know, do you look at doing a cash flow positive project that maybe doesn't get everything done, but gets a chunk of it, or do you look at, you know, do we put some of our capital dollars in to where we're, you know, we're not paying 100% of the project cost, we're paying 40 cents on the dollar, something like that. So those are the types of, decisions that would come later. So with that, I'll let Zia touch a little bit on the sewer plant opportunities.
Again, the information that you have in this matrix, is a summary of 2 hours of walking the plant, and a lot of Google searching and information. We have not seen actual details or technical details of the plant and what have you, but based on our experience and knowledge, and I guess I'm kind of the oldest guy in the room. I've been at it 46 years. So this is a fairly reasonable and close enough assessment. So what I'm going to discuss with you is pretty much on point. The plant evolution occurred from where you had 2 small donuts that were originally contact stabilization process. Then apparently the state came in and asked you to increase the capacity of your plant, so the 3rd donut went in. And then all 3 donuts were upgraded to a new technology called activated sludge extended aeration. But for whatever reason, the state played a hand in you guys and also added nutrient removal, which is a very aggressive and advanced stage of treatment requirement. So now the issue is that these plants have to meet biological nutrient requirements. So when the 2 donuts went to the 3 donuts and the upgrade that occurred, everything got done correctly. The upgrade included fine bubble aeration and what have you. But what didn't happen is that the life and blood of a wastewater plant is oxygen. You pump oxygen to biologically treat the wastewater. So the oxygen delivery is really a mismatch to the technology that's in the donuts. The blowers are way oversized, and not only are they oversized, but they are sending so much air into the treatment process that the operators are constantly struggling to manage it. And that's pretty much the way it is. The first thing I did was I looked at the plants and I looked at the report that was done for the township in 2000 by the engineer, and it appeared that the population projections for this area based on a 1.5% escalation rate would never be at a point till about 2040, 2045, before you would be able to use the full capacity of the 3 donuts. So I looked at it and I said, one obvious area to consider, and this would have to be analyzed further in the engineering side, would be, is to put one of the smaller donuts in a standby mode, not decommission, no anything. Just put it in a standby mode and load up the 2 other donuts to the maximum potential. Treatment plants do not like to be run under their capacity rating. If you're running them at 40% or 50%, imagine everything is sized for the 100%. So it becomes inefficient. So my thought was that some consideration should be given to see if there is an opportunity that would allow and permit the one small donut to be put in a standby position. And in the interim, when it's in the standby position, you could use it as an equalization basin because of rainfall-induced flow that comes into the plant. If you look at the configuration of the last donut, it has 10 compartments. The 10th compartment is a equalization basin in that big donut. So you would have a supplemental area to store and then time release, because treatment plants want to function at equilibrium, not up and down, up and down. So I think it has many merits. At the end of the day, the final test would come when you get to the next level. The detailed engineering would have to do some process modeling to see if it really would work, and it has the ability to do the treatment. So that's the one area that I think you get some significant benefit. The other, the next one that is on that list is you definitely have to look at right-sizing the aeration blowers, because it's like putting it's so oversized, and the oversized air and the lack of controls is making the operations of the plant very difficult. And there is constant foaming at the plant. That's a result of too much oxygen. It's just it's unmanageable, basically. And there are no automatic controls to manage it. So that's an area, and the existing blowers are multi-stage centrifugal units, which are older technology. The new technologies are high-speed turbo blowers that are specifically designed to match the fine bubble aerators that you already have in the system. So it would be then a balanced, optimized operation. So that's a recommendation we're making. Having a nutrient removal plant, what is called BNR, biological nutrient removal plant, the level of controls and operating sequences become very sophisticated. And the lack of controls at this plant for automation need to be evaluated as well. The operators are doing a wonderful job at running the plant based on some very basic information, but they need more. They need more, and the traditional upgrade to running biological nutrient removal plants is to incorporate what is called an ammonia-based aeration control system, so that it becomes fully integrated. It evaluates the raw water, untreated wastewater ammonia level, and then manages the airflow into the aeration system. And it becomes very balanced, and it would save a lot of money, because my guess is your annual spend at the plant is $320,000 a year on energy, of which 55 to 60% is only in aeration. So making aeration efficient is in the township's best interest. Then the other part of the system, if let's say aeration is 55, the other 35% of the energy that is being utilized at the plant is in the what is called aerobic digestion. And that's when you do the wastewater treatment and you produce sludge. Sludge is full of organic material, so it has to be digested. So the aerobic digesters requiring air. The good thing is that the blowers, and there are 6 of them, there are 50 horsepower blowers that are driving the aeration in the digesters, are positive displacement blowers, which is a good thing, but they have no speed control. So they're just hammering and running energy when you may not need it. So that's another recommendation, is to put speed control on those blowers. The last area that makes a lot of sense is that there is a cost component in the budget that includes the disposal of digested sludge. You're sending the sludge to your Fernie landfill, and they're charging you an arm and a leg. So there is a transportation and disposal cost. I'm recommending that we need to, the current, and not to get too technical, the terms that are used for what is the percent of solids that are coming out of the digester and they're being pressed and shipped to the landfill. The lower the percent solids, the more you're shipping water. Okay. So currently, the solids content in the sludge is on the low side. So there is probably a cost that is inadvertently being incurred by the township by shipping water, which you don't need to if you had better dewatering. So
Does that happen at the belt press?
yes, sir.
And is it not functioning properly, or is
It's just not.
it's not the right tool for the job?
It's old. It's old, and I haven't studied it in detail, but belt press at its optimum level will produce a cake at around 16 to 18% solids.
Wow.
Okay. Whereas if you went to a screw press or a low press, you have the chance of taking that percent solids to 25%. So the delta between 17 to 18 to 25 is huge. It could amount to reducing your loads to the landfill by 3 or 4 a month. And if your loads are costing you $1,500, I don't know what they cost you, that's savings. So that's an O&M savings that would allow you to have better. Then, and then since you mentioned the belt press, and there's really nothing you can do about it, but at the end of the day, when you press the water out of the belt press, it's an artifact of the treatment process. That water has the highest concentration of ammonia and phosphorus because it's digested sludge. And then you're rerouting that water back to the headworks and creating your own problem.
Right.
Okay? You're creating your own problem and you're asking for aeration. Bring more air because I'm just feeding you more load. And for every pound of ammonia you're introducing into the front end, you're asking the blower to produce 5 pounds of oxygen to counter it. But how do you fix it? You can fix it by going to a different way of digestion, which is is number 3, the P uptake. What that is you instead of having a aeration-based digester, you use the same infrastructure, use the same blowers, but you operate that digester in a facultative mode. That means you pulse and you treat, and you pulse and you treat. And it saves probably 80% of the energy. But it requires controls. And controls are expensive, and the algorithms that drive the controls. So I would recommend that. And the side stream, the centrate or the filtrate that's coming off the belt press going back to the headwork, there are technologies that will eliminate the ammonia and eliminate the phosphorus. But if you go into the P uptake, hopefully you won't have any of that when you press the fluids because it'll be organically taken up. So this is kind of the wish list that I could identify in the short time that I spent at your facility. The next steps, as Dan said, would be to solicit RFPs. And my recommendation to you gentlemen would be, since wastewater is going to be the major contributor of savings in this package, I would encourage you that when you solicit the RFP, that you include in there a mandatory requirement for a 5 to 10 page technical plan. And that technical plan will allow your selection team to evaluate on an apples-to-apples basis between the respondents. And that'll be beneficial to you guys, because otherwise, if it's open-ended, one could take you to the moon and the other is taking you to the Mars, and you have no idea who to believe. So as long as you have a technical plan, you can flush it out and understand, is this real? You can put the sniff test to it, so to speak.
Sure.
Any questions, sir?
Yeah, I have a question. I read an article today about New York used to ship their, and I don't like the word cake, but their sludge to Colorado, I believe, for years. They used it as fertilizer.
Yes.
And they stopped that because of the cost of transport. Is that something that's just not done anymore?
No, it's done
Is there a
all the
way
time.
to avoid the cost to go? Because I believe that it's a special tipping fee at a special dump because of what is being brought there. Maybe not.
No.
But is there a way, and I mean special and not a good way?
Let me explain.
So tell me about that.
Anaerobic digesters, the way you have it, anaerobic digester basically cooks that sludge at a temperature in the 95 to 98 degree range. The genre of that kind of process is called mesophilic digester. Okay. What it produces is what is called a Class B material. A Class B material can be applied, land applied, into farms because it's digested. There is no pathogens, it's been cooked
Right.
by the bacteria and stuff, so it's inert basically. It's like manure. It depends on your state regulations if they would allow you to land strike. And if you have farmers that are willing to take it, or you can land inject it, there are many ways to get rid of it. But there are some states, particularly in the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, for some reason, they force the generators of the cake to take them to landfills or whatever. But those are the kinds of things that I have not looked into, but those are the options. I'm working on a project in Lincoln, Nebraska. And what they do is they take the Class B and store it in a lagoon. And then when the summer comes, the farmers just come and suck it and put it on the farms.
Wow.
Class B material.
Yeah.
So it is any.
Yeah, and they're doing some of that in New Jersey. There's a couple of plants that, I think this is like Class A biosolids, Middlesex County Utilities Authority. I think the level of treatment to get to, Class A, I'm not familiar with, but it is being done to a certain extent.
Right. I just, I know that we spend money to get rid of that.
Yes.
If there was a way, frankly, to give it away, just, God forbid, sell it,
Yeah.
but give it away rather than pay to put it somewhere, that would be money found.
Yes, sir.
So I didn't mean to take you
No,
off point,
I
but I
think
just.
you're right on, you're right on. I mean, there's many ways to skin the cat, and my recommendation is, and you have another nuance in your system, and we discussed it with Mr. Thatcher when we talked, was you're diverting some of your wastewater to your neighbor and paying them $300,000 a year.
Right.
And I asked the question, you're underutilizing your own wastewater plant, and yet you're paying somebody else for the wastewater.
Right, and I think that's just, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, I think that's just because of the way it's piped, isn't it?
And my response to that was, again, I don't have any facts, and being a 2-minute wonder is, excuse me for that, but it's putting in a pipe to the closest convenient manhole is not that expensive.
Okay, that's interesting. If it saves all that money, it's.
I mean, I'm not trying to create a ripple between your governmental agencies, but But you may have contract
Right.
obligations and that will not allow you to do that, they're all different. And I think Mr. Thatcher said that the state is involved and some regionalization issues. That train may have left the station, so.
Right, right. But but a good point. Correct me if I'm wrong, this is similar, just trying to get my arms around the whole,
Yes, sir.
you know, you'd think that something that was bigger, a bigger engine or a bigger whatever would be more efficient to move a lighter load. But I remember that when the light came on, when somebody was explaining that getting a bigger condenser unit for an air conditioner in a home or in a business wouldn't be better because it couldn't get through the full cycle. It would come on and push this cold air out, and it wouldn't do what it was supposed to do because it was oversized. Is that the same?
Absolutely,
Okay.
and I just upgraded my air conditioner from 2.5 to 4. And what it was the air handler was going to produce so much air that the 8 ducts I had were not enough, so I had to put 6 more ducts
Wow.
to distribute that excess air to balance it out.
Okay. Good, okay. Just happy that I'm with you. Because you threw a couple terms out there. I was ready to Google them. If I could spell them, I would have Googled them.
Well, that was not the intent, but I have to check myself because I think this is simple stuff, but I've been at it for too long. But I think that I have given you a very objective assessment of where you are, and it's pretty.
Right, gotta love that. That's the right price.
Yes.
Um,
Any questions other than that?
I appreciate it. You know, this is very helpful. I think the report would certainly be the basis, I think, going forward, if we would decide to move on any or all of this, would be where we would start. And that's also a great point to ask for a detailed technical plan that gives us, because you can start throwing around your big words and we'd all go, well, Jim wouldn't, he's an engineer, but we would all be lost.
Trust me, I have been in too many of these where they're open-ended and they go to nowhere, and in all fairness to the recipients, if the specificity is missing, you're asking them to spend money on that.
Great. Anybody, council, have any questions? Nothing? Good. So, Dan, Zia, and Sam, thank you very much for coming in and for preparing this. Well, I'm sure we'll have many more discussions about this. And then hopefully, we'll be able to get back to you with some feedback soon.
No, we appreciate the work that you guys put into this, sir.
Yeah, please let us know if there's more questions or more things we can do to, help you guys make a decision.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. My objective in this analysis was to bring your non-performing asset into the optimum performance range, so you can get a better rate.
Yes.
That's great. We will, we need to invite you.
Yes, of course.
We understand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in and taking the time. On the record show that
And that's what we want to
Lodi is
go
here,
over.
direct from California. Well, you look great for just getting off the plane.
That's what we need next, though, your review today. You know what I'm saying?
So, we will continue with the next item. Patty, we'll get you up to speed as best we can on Schneider Electric.
Okay,
and the tape.
yes, sorry.
It was complex.
Okay.
Good, though.
It was good. So next is discussion of items on the capital budget. And Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're going to talk about what we want to include.
Correct.
And not include.
You've had the first and second reading of the budget, which includes the capital budget. At this point, it's only a plan. It's more than a wish list, but essentially it's a wish list. You haven't authorized anything. The next step would be to put together an ordinance that would allow you to go out and authorize bids and thing is to go out and purchase these pieces of equipment. And you want to run down them one by one?
I think we should, we've talked about it before, and I think primarily we're looking at which ones will include in the plan to move forward. I'm sorry.
They're sort of in categories. That's how they're required to go in the capital budget. We don't have to follow that, but first one is the total for acquisition of police equipment is approximately $55,000, which includes purchase of handgun and holsters, $25,000. The detective interview room recording system, $15,500, and the police mobile video recorders, $14,500. So if you want to discuss if you have an issue with any of those items. As you'll recall, the justification for those were provided in your budget document. The chief is here if you have any questions on any of those as well.
I think in our discussion, we determined that they were all needed, as I recall, so I think we should, we'll certainly make a decision by way of a vote of some sort, but I think they should be included.
The next category of equipment is for the Public Works Department. One-man leaf truck, $255,000. Grass cutters, basically the big lawn mowers that you see doing the athletic fields and the open space, we have $20,000, and a small dump truck, $120,000. So we've indicated before, the leaf truck basically pays for itself in respect with, it'll allow us to take 3 men off the manned leaf trucks during the leaf season, which will give us basically, it'll actually give us 2 men because somebody has to operate it, but it'll give us 2 men for approximately 4 months in the fall, and then again through the winter and in the early spring. Grass cutters are used constantly. You saw the age of those, everything we have. You guys take real good care of the equipment. Most of the equipment is 15 and 20 years old that we're getting rid of. And the same thing with the small dump truck. Without the dump truck, basically, we don't have enough pieces of equipment to put out to plow in terms of the manpower that we need. They may have any issues with any of those items. And you have the municipal property improvements. We've got a municipal roof estimated at $1.8 million. 2 basketball courts, if you'll recall, Jerry had submitted, I think, for all 4, but you all selected 2. If you were to do 2 of the basketball courts, $43,500. And again, these items are estimates. Some of them will have to go out to bid, and then the bid number determines where it's at. Re-roofing the tar property roof, which is in really bad shape, $24,000. The AC unit repair, $35,000. Equipment for
That was the fix one. Fix the one that's the main, that would be the main one, and the other one would be a backup, correct? Just making sure.
Equipment for the parks, that was to replace a bunch of, we haven't purchased top lot equipment in almost 15 or more years. That is to upgrade some of the top lot equipment throughout the parks, $200,000. And then the Public Works fire hydrant replacement, that is the replacement plan for the fire hydrants that need to be replaced around the building. That's the private hydrants.
That's only the ones that we talked about, the other ones that we recommend.
And then finally, reconstruction of roads and sidewalks. You've already approved, you did the early passage in the temporary budget of the overall road projects, but we have to provide some funding for the 2 projects that we anticipate are receiving municipal grants on. One is the second phase of the Route 130 sidewalk improvement of $176,000 grant of that $220,000. And the other one is the CDB, the Community Development Block Grant Program, which is $85,000. The grant will actually cover $78,000 of it. Essentially, you're paying for the engineering on both of those projects. The grants cover the full cost of those items. The sewer utility upgrades to include the Clay Street pump station, $1,850,000. That's the one I think you, I know I have tons of pictures of it. It's in very bad shape. Was that shared with, I can't remember if I was shared with council,
I
but
think so.
it's in really bad shape and needs to be upgraded. It basically handles a lot of the sewer that comes from that side of the highway. Additional funds for the sand filter, you've already actually done that for $450,000 with one. If you go with the Adirondack or something similar program, RFP, $120,000, and then the weir cleaner was $160,000. We did put, if you'll recall, I think we put $20,000 in the budget. One of the items was the dewatering, wasn't approved, but we put $20,000 in to do additional engineering stuff. So it's not, it's in the budget itself.
In the operating budget.
And then, yeah, the sewer operating budget. And then finally, in the sewer equipment, $130,000 for two F-350s with salt spreaders and plows, and an acoustic tool for $30,000. Everybody recalls the acoustic tool will help them find leaks in the system much quicker and better. And the two Ford 350s would also would replace 15-year-old, 16-year-old vehicles, but also would allow, in case of an emergency, for those trucks to be utilized to plow snow as well. Even though they're sewer vehicles, it would allow us to put some more people on the road.
So are these last two groups, are they sewer capital?
They are sewer capital.
Sewer capital, so they're separate from the municipal capital.
And I just have, and I just noted, remember, 85,000 for the CDBG, what was that?
Well, we applied for, I forget the name of the road, that road that leads from Hunter's Glen towards Banner Drive. And then we also applied for Pheasant, yeah, and we applied for the handicap ramp at Echo. So there's basically two projects.
Thank you.
So that money, basically, for the most part, is reimbursed through the grants, and we wouldn't spend the money unless we got the grant. Correct. So that's kind of it says 305,000, but if you kind of do math quickly, it's like 50,000 total.
We actually already did the second part of the Route 130 sidewalk. This was done before that was required to be done. And if you saw the ordinance was put together, it really only authorizes debt of the difference of the two. It doesn't authorize debt of 220. It just authorizes the debt of the difference between 220 and 176.
Can you show the grant for the sports lighting, is that? I'll talk about it. You want to talk? The sport?
The grant from the county.
Yeah.
Why would that be on there?
I thought that was just another.
Yeah, I don't see it listed, so.
Jeff, I'll review it with you.
All right. You review it. So what do we need to do? First we talk about it, and then what's the next step?
The next step would be for
I
me
got
to
a question.
contact.
Dan's got a question.
Based on the previous thing we just had from Schneider, and we're looking at sewer capital and under the municipality, the municipal roof, one of the things I found interesting was the fact of putting a solar array on the roof. If we're going to go forward with this, how does that interface with what we just had from the presentation from Schneider?
We had the discussion with Schneider is that they didn't need to slow down that process at all. It's just that we have to make sure that when the roof is put together, especially specifications are put together in such a way that it would allow for.
Accommodate, okay.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with sewer capital, because they were recommending quite a few things there in sewer. These things that we're going to go forward with, if we approve this, how would that?
Yeah, they're not impacted.
They're not.
None of them are, no.
Yeah, I was listening carefully for anything that might impact the sand filter, the weirs, or even the energy saving. And again, this Schneider Electric report is really the step one of, I don't know, 10.
understand both Jeff Williams and Jim's firm are taking a look at it. I mean, there's some things that they agree with respect to some, and if you'll see, I mean, the capital investment's over $4 million.
Right.
It's not inexpensive, and so you'd have to have more information in terms of what that payback is in terms of return on investment, and the timeframes on it. Some of the things they agree with, some things they don't, and as even he said, there's some limitations on some of the things we can do with respect to contracts we have with other towns, and also the state doesn't look highly on taking a sewer plant and taking half of their capacity out. I think there's, I don't know if your firm's been through it, but I've been through it in other towns, is that's not something that usually the DP allows. That's a tough ball.
So the
You
way,
can certainly take a look at it.
the way I see this, this report, and it was so nice of them to do that, is this is kind of a contractor coming in and saying, look, we're gonna renovate the whole house. And soup to nuts, this is all the stuff you need to bring this up to be great, a great house. This stuff in here is, let's fix the leaky toilet, let's fix the roof that hasn't, you know, that's leaking, that are all separate, and as I see it, precursors to even think about doing some of the things that they're talking about in here.
But like Jeff said, we're still gonna have our engineer and we're gonna have Jeff Williams look this
Oh,
over
yeah.
and make sure that it's things that they also feel are
Absolutely.
getting done.
And before you, I mean, there's a second step, but there's also a third step. Before you take that third step, you need to find out what the return on investments
Exactly.
are
Yep.
on some of these things, because some of them work pretty long-term, and some of them are better short-term
Yep.
and, you know, interesting discussions. I mean, because some of the things we've incorporated in the capital with the sewer already, since we've taken over the sewer plant, the energy costs have gone down almost $60,000 a year. So if we can get them down a little further, that'd be great, but we've already seen a significant reduction by doing some of these other improvements.
But even in the municipal building, like if we can, you know, let's say fix something, and if there's long-term benefits to do it, spending a little bit more to get, you know, a better long-term effect rather than doing something small in the beginning and then doing a little bit further later on and costing more, we may want to look at doing that as well, so.
There's a lot of opportunity here, just,
Exactly.
you know, you talk about lighting, just that room, it's a nightmare.
And the controls, the
Poorly
heating,
lit,
the heating and air.
it's inefficient.
Controls.
There's a lot that can be done.
Yep.
And this is a big, you know, there's a big plan that needs to be parsed out. There'll be a lot more discussion about this one. But in the meantime, we have to go about the business that we're here to do, and that's to see if there's any other questions first with this capital budget, these capital budget items. And then I started to ask Jeff, and I'm sorry I interrupted you. The next step would be to put these on the public meeting and
Is contact the bond, or have the bond council put together the ordinances
Right.
for both sewer and municipal, they're two separate ordinances, and then forward with the first reading.
do we need to give some, either go ahead to do that tonight?
Well, yes, because just a hand vote, because you need 4 votes to adopt a bond ordinance, so you don't want to start this process if you don't have 4 votes to move forward.
Okay. So, do we need just a voice vote? Or
Just
do
a
we need
voice vote,
Just a
fine at
voice
this
vote.
point.
So, if everybody's okay moving forward with this plan, we have 4 members of council in attendance tonight. I just would need a nod of the head or a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so it looks like we have 4 votes to do that. We have 4 nods for sure. And that'll go on the
Public meeting.
the public meeting. Okay, now this is Jeff's favorite item to bring forward to us. This is kind of like when your kids write down, what does your dad like to do? And they say, work. So, Jeff, I know that
I'm
Jeff.
not sure what that means.
Well,
I honestly don't.
you know, I know that my kids thought I loved to go to work. They didn't know that I had to, but anyway, so I know that you will explain this.
One of the reasons that I report on the JIF is number one, you should know what's going on with the insurance end of the township. But secondly, one of the things that they do is also give us credit towards a certain program by reporting on this quarterly. So that's one of the other reasons that we do it, and it saves us some money in terms of our annual premium. Not a lot, but a little bit. So just to rehash, because I know Tyler's fairly new at this, and I did probably give him some of this stuff when he first came out here and got oriented, and but I handed you so much information that just touch base real quick. This is the 25th year that we've been involved with the Burlington County Joint Insurance Fund. Before that time, we were receiving our insurance through commercial market. We got together 25 years ago with 9 other towns and created the Burlington County Joint Insurance Fund. Before that time, I can tell you because of experience that there were towns that didn't have police liability, there were towns that didn't have public officials liabilities, and there were times when we saw 20 and 25% premium increases in 1 year. The commercial market just went up and down with, crazy numbers that didn't make sense to anybody. So we all started talking about doing joint insurance funds. 25 years later, the 10-town joint insurance fund is now 26 towns in Burlington County. And we are also part of the Municipal Excess Liability Fund, provides us excess insurance over claims over $300,000, but also provides for workers' compensation claims and public officials' employment practices claims. And that provides insurance for 375 of the towns in New Jersey. Roughly 75% of the towns are in JIFs and the MEL. You have in your packet basically our performance for the last 6 years, and as I was reporting to you, we were having some difficulty in terms of our claims over, there was a 4-year period, we call it in the box. It seems like towns go through it where your claims are good and all of a sudden you have a couple or more than a couple and the numbers don't look good and your claims history goes up, and we had about 4 in a row which weren't very good. And I'm happy to report that in the last 2 years they've turned around. In the last 6 years, our loss ratio is 97.1%, which is not good, but it's under 100. But if you'll see, the first 4 years were all well over 100. And this is after coming off of probably 15 years that were good in a row. And we had 4 rough years. Since that time, the last 2 years, it's been a 29.6 loss ratio for the year and 11.3%. So it's really bounced back. We run the same safety programs. We try to pump them up a little bit when things are going bad, but sometimes it's just, if you get a couple of employees that have issues in claims, it's difficult. But both of those are now trending in the right direction and really look good. The second report is the MEL loss ratio, and that would be any claims that are either over $300,000 and or some of the excess. We have a 1.4% loss ratio. That's outstanding over the last 6 years, and it's always been around that number. So we have no issues there. And the final report is the EPL, POL loss report, which is the employment practices and public officials loss. In the last 6 years, we haven't had a claim. I can tell you in the 25 years we've been in the JIF, we haven't had a claim in that area. So we've got everything's trending excellent. As you saw, the actual budget numbers for the liability insurance this year in the 2017 budget actually went down, and some of that was because we've utilized some of the dollars that we had in a fund from having excess dividends to offset and give everybody a little bit of a break. So things still look very good and they're trending in the right direction. Any questions on that?
That's great, Jeff.
Very good.
Okay, so the next item is we asked our legal firm, our law firm, to give us an opinion on the necessity to do a sewer rebilling. And based on their memo, I don't know if you want to expand on that, but based on the memo, it seemed that we were within our rights to do that.
Correct. Just very quickly, there was a question, as you will recall, whether or not the Ward 4 limited the township in its ability to reissue billing. Kind of just going through that language and thinking about the legal implications, I conclude that the 4 isn't a limiting only to those 3 months. And from a practical standpoint, I think rebilling is perfectly acceptable.
So I think the most important part of this is that we correct the language in the ordinance so that there's no discrepancy and that we are doing it the way the ordinance is the way it should be, and that the data is the data. Jeff, you have any?
No, I mean, we're
input?
well, yeah, we're ready to send out new bills when you're ready to authorize them. We went over at the last meeting what the impacts were going up and down. 60-some% won't see any change. The billing those people who paid, it'll show the payment, so the adjustment will already be in there. It's not like it's a brand new bill. It would be roughly 10% would go up. 60%, 61 I think it was, will stay the same, and the rest will go down. And as soon as you authorize it, you can send them out.
To do it today.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that today. Do we have, I know that we said that we would put a note in there, did you have a note prepared?
We're drafting it over now.
Just so that everybody understands what's happening, and well, that's so about 10% of the people are going to be negatively impacted, and you know, certainly those folks are not going to be happy, but hopefully they understand the situation, that it's what the bill should have been in the first place. So,
Gary, along those lines, in the memo to Jeff from Vicki and Linda, and I realize it doesn't impact this issue, but when I was reading this before the meeting, under number 6, it says, we have been notified that they had an issue with May bills. What's with New Jersey American that we're getting issues with the bills also? Do we know?
They had an issue with their May bills. I think people will get some adjustments on their water bill. Has nothing to do with us, but
yeah, I realize that. I just
we have, in all honesty, we have a difficult time getting the correct billing from them every year. We're going to make some recommendations. Unfortunately, the recommendations aren't easy to fix this. I mean, one of the things we're doing that's easy to fix is we're now asking for the bills for the last 3 months now. So we can put that in a file and adjust that so that the tax collector is not waiting until next year. We've asked her to do that. We've done that. We have that billing. But there's some other things that we're going to at least discuss with you during the course of this year once we get going that would make this a little bit easier. I mean, some of the things that I've looked at in some of the other towns, most of them would result in higher bills, and I know we don't want to do that because a lot of people are doing it, you know, the previous 3 months and going forward. But the problem with that is the town, the sewer authority before us, because we basically inherited their whole system. We haven't really changed much from that perspective, but was not to bill for people filling pools and running sprinkler systems. And a lot of towns actually do that because they just do every quarter regardless. And we recognize Township Council probably doesn't want to do that. But we were looking at some things in terms of semi-annual billing and things along those lines that would work a lot better in terms of flow and billing, because one of the other issues that we have is that we send out a bill and we're collecting a December bill in January of the next year, which makes some things difficult. So there's some things we're going to talk over with you, but they're down the road. We do have the correct billing for next year already in the system, so that's something that the tax collector has changed. We'd asked for that, and we got that. So
Thanks.
Good. So in order to authorize you to do that, we need resolution or just a motion? What is the legal requirement on that, Jeff or Brian?
I mean, it's correcting a bill, an existing bill, so I'm not really sure.
Should we do we need to get these out though, right? Should we do a resolution if we had to do can we do a resolution that we name and describe briefly, and Jamie will give us a number? Or do we need to just make a motion? What's the safest way to do it?
I guess by resolution then.
Yeah, the safest way would be by
And the resolution would be, be it resolved, Township Council authorizes the tax and sewer department to issue sewer bills that will run from December, for the billing dates of January, from December to January, February, March, because the dates do differ for different homes.
Do you have a potential number for this resolution?
Well, it would be 2017-96.
Okay, so,
Before we do that, though, I spoke to Vicki today, and we probably want to also extend the due date for the first quarter to June. So no late fees would be charged until after June 30th. So the due date, when the bills go out, hopefully in the next week or two, the due date will say June 1st, but they'll have the whole month of June to pay, just first quarter only. If there's any prior year bills that are still outstanding, then there's.
And you had already extended it to May 30th, so this would just extend it another month.
okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion to pass resolution 2017-96, which would include all of the descriptors that Jeff just ran through regarding the rebilling, and would also include no late fees until June 30th. The bill would be due June 1st, but it would be no late fees to June 30th for any fees that were due for this billing cycle of 2017, first quarter of 2017.
I'll second.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mrs. Flode?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connell?
Aye.
Mr. Cattrick?
Aye. Thank you, everyone, for working with me. That's my favorite trick I learned from the planning board. Let somebody else state the details and then just refer to them, because you have it on tape. Great. Next is, what a great picture, is the potential to sell for raffle off the old street signs. Now that we've replaced the street signs. And the Historical Society has asked for the ability to do that, perhaps help them raise money. You know, that'd be a great opportunity at Del Rande to show them off and either set a purchase price or, I don't know about a bid might make it, an auction might make it difficult, but.
Silent auction.
Silent auction.
Because we could do an inventory of them and put it on the website. Is we have this many of, Tempe Chase Drive, this many of, because some streets, obviously with down streets, we have multiples. And just talking about this issue around the office, I mean, there are people who, people who want to buy signs in the street, and it can benefit the Historical Society.
That's great.
Right, so I think that we can,
I mean, the details of it, it's more about getting back with them maybe and finding out what works with them too, but whether or not you want to turn them over to them and have it done, or just have us do it, like you easier to have us do it.
and just turn it
And
over.
turn the money over.
So, yeah, I think that if we could do that, do we have, I don't know that we have the mechanism on the website to do a silent auction, but.
Well, I didn't know,
do it.
I don't know if you want to tie it into Del Rande or a specific date or,
It would be good, the problem would be, maybe not, it would be helpful to Del Rande as well, if you want to, because there's no admission to Del Rande, there's no fee, so anybody could go and anybody could bid. And certainly a surrogate could bid, because.
and whatever's left over, I mean,
You just sell maybe on, just sell.
Sell them straight out.
I mean, because otherwise we would just put, there's some metal here, or aluminum, and we would put them for scrap.
Right.
But
No, I think, you know, I immediately said, ooh, I wonder if my street's in here.
And then, you wonder if, let's say the Historic Society runs the silent auction, and then if there's still any left, if another organization might want to have some of the
Right,
extras,
or just put them for,
sale,
whatever
yeah.
whatever the going price is for a minimum price on these things, you know.
And this is only a very small section of the street signs, just so you know.
That's great.
That's not even, those are the ones that haven't been taken on, they're still attached.
Right. Oh, I think that's great. I see that in the rec room. Now all I have to do is help the rec room. Oh, good.
Well,
So-
you'll see missing off of what poles.
Yeah. Yeah. Nobody has an objection, so I get there we go. So next is the chief's memo, and just an update on that. We had asked the chief to give us some background on that and some observations, and Jeff, since you received the memo, I'll let you talk about this, but it seemed pretty cut and dry.
The summer, question was about Summer Hill Drive and parking, and as you know, over the years, we've actually moved parking in different directions, and I think we're probably running out of places to move people, but the chief reported accidents, and there's basically been one accident a year, not always involving things that you would think are from recreation. I mean, two were DWIs, one driver fell asleep, two were hit and runs, we don't know about that. One said she lost control of steering and didn't see the parked car. One accident occurred in each year except for 2011 where there were no accidents involving parked cars, in 2016 where there were two. And the chief indicated he did feel that it was safe to park on both sides, however, suggested the possibility of lowering the speed limit. I did talk with Jim. One of the things we'd have to do is an engineering study, but he has some reservations about it. I haven't seen traffic speed limits come in under 25, and I think he has the same reservation.
Yeah, it's generally rule of thumb, like your slowest speed limit is 25. I mean, you need an extreme condition where you can justify under 25. Summer Hill, I mean, the road is designed in accordance with RSIS. It's your typical residential street. I don't know of any site distance issues. There isn't any site distance issues. It's your normal,
I'm sorry, Jim, I disagree with you, especially on the other side of Springcrest by the townhomes, not by the ball field. Those curves, the trees.
We did have site issues,
Okay.
but we moved them back.
Well, no, and now you've had trees that have grown, and I think that it limits a little bit more of the vision on those curves on that side of Summer Hill Drive.
What trees?
The trees on the property. They restrict your vision.
No, I mean, where on Summer Hill Drive are you at?
Near, when you come in from Hartford Road, and you go to the right on Summer, that's where I'm talking about, as opposed to where the ball field is. Where the curves are, you've had trees grow, and they're more mature now than when we first moved in there. Because I walk back there a lot, and when I got the call on this, I had seen the parked cars more by the ball field, and on Summer Hill Drive where it connects to the road connected to the sand field.
Sure.
But I went all the way around, and those trees have become more mature.
So you're talking about if you were to come in off of Hartford and bear to your right and take the whole right around?
You've got
So-
one, two, three curves, I think, on that side.
Yeah, you have the curves, and then you're talking about the pine trees like on the corners?
Yeah.
So you're talking about, I guess, the blind spot of coming out of those side streets to make a right. It's not driving around Summer Hill Drive, you're talking about coming out of the side streets then, like out of, I think it's Roslyn and out of.
Whatever.
So that would be the blinds, and I would agree with you possibly that way, yes. But I'm talking about on Summer Hill Drive.
Well, we originally came with the idea of parking, and then we realized there's nothing we could do about parking because it's delineated where you can and you can't. Thanks to the chief for taking a look at this and letting us know about the accidents. The curves there with cars parked on either side of the street there, they restrict your.
So that's the issue, now you're back to the cars.
Well, now I'm back to what he's talking about in the memo of lowering the speed.
And I agree with the
Yeah.
speed, if we can do that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as far as the parking, I'm just gonna let you know.
I'm off the parking. I'm on the chief.
And I'm gonna say that the
Chief,
view,
I'm
by the way,
speed.
the view on those curves,
Mhm.
we did have Jim go out there and back him off, because there were site issues.
Right.
And we actually backed him off the corners, correct? Didn't we
That
move
was
off?
years ago, right?
Exactly.
If you
If you go around that corner of the hospital, someone talks about, you can't maintain.
Correct.
Well, that's the thing.
And now, and I'm agreeing with that, we should slow it.
But here's the thing, you don't establish speed limits on curbs, that's where you put up the advisory speed. You know, like if you're driving down a road and you have like a 90-degree curve, you see the yellow signs with recommended 10 miles an hour curve.
Right.
It can.
That's not enforceable by law, it's just an advisory recommended speed. It just stops you
Right.
having the speed limit change constantly, you know.
Well, let me tell you the issue. The issue on that road is on both sides, and unfortunately, since they can't park by their townhomes and stuff, and we got them now to park on that street, and we backed them off the corners, which we've done everything like that. The problem that we have is with them both on each side, you can't get two cars through at the same time, and there's the problem. And what you have is these people coming through fast, and either they see you and they stop all of a sudden, or you're gonna have an accident sometimes, because with them coming quick, there's a lot of times people are just avoiding accidents.
And it's a 30-foot wide.
So that's
road, right?
why, yes, but with the two cars there, you can't get two through.
It might be just classified wrong, like, it's a 30-foot wide road, that's a residential access street, technically, you're supposed to be allowed to park on both sides, but if you bump up the intensity of the road to like, say, like a collector residential street, it's supposed to be wider to allow parking on both sides. I mean, we can look at it, it might have just not, you know, I mean, technically, you could probably go back to the parking issue, but then
But we
you're just gonna
can't-
move the problem.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we can't do the parking issue.
Because you can't fix it.
Yeah, you
There's
can't
nothing-
fix that. The only issue that we're asking is, I think slowing the speed will at least make people slow down where it doesn't give you the possibility of having an accident, because there's people that you just avoid it because they're coming so fast. So that's the issue, Jim. I mean,
Does the street narrow at any point? Is it all?
No,
same
it's the curves.
It's the
Right,
curve
right.
and the
So
stop.
I'm looking at where
Yeah.
you're saying up near Box Club and
Yep.
North Bay and all that.
Yep.
well, it's the other side too. It's the side coming in from the ball field.
It is, but a lot of times you've only got parking on that one side. You don't have as much parking on both sides.
Sometimes they park on both. They do. And that's where the area I'm actually talking about, because I know coming out of that way, if you make a right out of Autumnwood, there's a lot of times where people are coming around
Yeah, oh,
fast,
yeah, right
and it's
there.
almost an accident.
Can you do anything on the roads, like with striping and
Like
putting,
rumble strips or something?
yeah, or, yeah, striping with the word slow or
You
curve?
can do whatever you can do all that, you know, each has its pros and cons and costs and maintenance and, you know, yeah, I mean, let me look at it. You know, I mean, first of all, I can talk to the DOT, I can talk to different traffic engineers, I talked to Doug's office, I'm pretty much just the same response we always get is anything under 25 miles an hour is technically illegal unless you have a specific study that allows you to change the speed limit to something that's other than the 85th percentile speed. That's how you establish the speed limit, is your 85th percentile speed on any road. It prevents governments, towns, this is nationwide, it prevents people from just arbitrarily changing speed limits to give uniform. It's
What is that?
whatever people feel, it's
The 85th.
basically like if you take the total volume of the road, the bottom 85%, whatever speed that is they're driving, that's your speed limit. If that makes sense, within 5 miles of that.
You need to come out there when they're both parked on both sides on the curb. I can call you, I mean, Dan, we can always call, and we can let you know when it is, and that would be the time to look at it, because unfortunately, it is younger kids too, coming around real fast, and they're not yielding, and it's close to having accidents.
It's close, but I mean, speeds are established based on how comfortable people feel driving that road.
Well, there's
That's
one
the-
other issue, Jim, and
Yeah.
it isn't part of this particular agenda item. But Summer Hill is being used for people cutting through from Hartford Road to Creek Road and vice versa. That way they can avoid the light at Bridgeboro Road. So they use the development to come through, and I remember when I campaigned, when I ran for office, I had a lot of people complain to me about people, and they do. I can see them.
We addressed that. I addressed that with the chief, the Grand also. People were complaining, yes, about they were using.
We put the sign out there,
Right.
Chief. You do
On,
that
on
from
Creek,
time to
right?
time.
Didn't we have something put on Creek that you kept about the bridge? And then, because they were going through, remember
I
that?
remember that.
Sorry,
Okay, did we do something about,
I don't think they're gonna put up.
we may wanna look into that, because that's what you're talking about.
And just keep in mind, the site distance, and I'll get you more information, but the site distance per AASHTO for 15 miles an hour and 25 miles an hour is the same, it's 0. It's like bare minimum, because you're going so slow, it's assumed that you have enough time to stop.
And look and see what he can recommend.
Yeah, I mean,
You even have a
it's not
chief
the
here
issue.
telling you that it's not a good issue though.
I
So just
understand,
decide.
but, you know, unfortunately, like,
The government.
It's the
No, I got
legal
you.
requirements of
they'll
what
tell
the speed
you,
limit is.
find more parking somewhere, you know.
No, there is no.
No,
I get it, it's,
But Jim, if you
You're-
were to do something else, like
we could look at it, there's always
that
options.
would be allowed, like it wouldn't be enforceable, it would be allowed under like recommended 15 on this curve.
You
or
did an
straight.
advisory curve.
Yes.
You
Okay.
can do
Right.
that, that's
That's right, so
warranted.
that's all we're asking, is look into something,
Yeah.
look into it and see what you think.
I'll just get more information and verification on the whole 15 mile an hour speed limit issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't the first time this has come up with a municipal government in New Jersey. It happens all over the place with HOAs and townships.
No,
Everybody
you know what it
says
is,
they think that 15
unfortunately,
miles
it's
an
the
hour is the
whole-
cure-all,
Right.
but
It's that
it's
whole,
not.
the way they did that whole development and with the towns
So-
and the parking.
So Jim, you're just gonna get back to us?
Yes.
Give us some ideas, if there's anything you recommend, and, because we can go round and round on what this is, but without your recommendations, we can't really do anything. Next is the new owners for the sewer. Are there any extenuating circumstances?
Same old stuff. This
Same
is,
stuff?
new owners, the regulations say new owners get to pay the minimum bill.
Right.
So we would put it at the public hearing, but we'd just like to notify you.
So I count 14 new owners, which I think is a great thing. Means that houses are selling and the units are moving. Hopefully that means that prices are going up and values are being retained. Okay. Jeff, the next item, I've witnessed this, I'm not sure whether I was at the table or in the audience, but I've witnessed these kinds of audits before. And maybe you can just talk about what it is and you're concerned about this.
There are companies that will come in and this one contacted, this is probably the third or fourth time that we've been contacted and we've had at least 2 of these audits done. But basically they come in and they look at all your phone lines and determine whether or not maybe you have a phone line that you're being billed for that you no longer use, things along those lines. And they want to share in the savings that they go through. We did one at the old building here. We did at least once here with the new building. And then another company started to do an audit and said, we're not finding anything and it doesn't justify our time. There's just not enough money here to go after it. Here, I think the third time. Well, there's another company, Spyglass, approached me, and I'm all for it. I don't like their proposal, though, with respect to how quickly they want to get their money if they were to have some savings. So what I'm recommending is that I go back to them and say, number one, they want to be paid if there's a cost recovery. Basically, they find something and there's money immediately that's going to be saved. They want it, originally in the contract it says 10 days. I'd like to change it to either 30 or 60. I'd like to go back, say 60 days, because we can't even process a check in 10 days with meetings the way that township governments work. So that's number one. And I don't think they'll object to that. If worse comes to worse, they'll say 30. I have no problem with that. Second item is with respect to elimination of savings, some suggestions that might provide us with some savings. They want to be paid essentially for the whole year right up front. And again, that's not usually how those contracts are put together. And so I've made a recommendation to, if there's a 50% elimination or reduction, that we pay it at the end of the year. And the same thing with any savings reductions, because we go back and say, okay, we'll either pay you during the course of the year over 12 months, but we're not going to pay them, upfront for any savings that we're not going to receive until the end of the year. So I just wanted to make you aware of it and see if you're okay with me going back with those proposals. They may walk away because, quite frankly, there's not a lot of money in these. What they'll probably do is start looking at it, and then they'll either accept it or walk away. But otherwise, it kind of puts all the onus on us, which shouldn't be the case.
Right.
And I've been through these before. We can find companies that'll meet the criteria and the timing that I'm talking about if this one doesn't agree with.
Jeff, I'm fine with you going back, but do we ever ask the phone company that we have right now, whoever's providing the service, to look at the bill and give us an idea?
So we change phone companies all the time.
Well, not changing phone companies so much, I just did it with my own bill with Verizon. I just looked at some of the services I had, and I didn't really need them anymore, and I lowered my bill. And I had a conversation with the woman on the phone, and they even threw me a $25 discount that wasn't part of my bill, they just gave me a reduction.
We basically do it annually.
Great, thanks.
Okay, so Jeff has direction. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, so that concludes the agenda items. We'll have reports from department heads, and I'll start with you, Chief. Anything tonight? You just came all color coordinated, and you're not even gonna make a report. Love that about you. Jamie, anything for us tonight?
Just an update, well, we had the blood drive today, it was very successful, all the appointment slots were scheduled. I don't know if we had any walk-ins, but they were gonna add an extra person
There were.
to handle the walk-ins. So they wanna actually add an extra drive for this year in July, but we're just working on finalizing the dates, so.
Great. It was very good. For everybody there except myself this time. Jeff, anything for us?
Just to reiterate, the email that I sent in terms of brush collection is, this is the time of year where Public Works is doing everything they do in a period of 2 months in terms of fields, leaves, branches, everything. So we authorize branch pickup on Saturday, some overtime for Saturday, and we're going to do it one more week. I don't know if it will be this Saturday, the way the weather is looking. If the weather's good, it'll work. If it's so-so, it'll work. If it's bad, obviously we'll probably hold it off a couple days or a week. But they'll be out there on Saturday to try to catch up on the branch collection because that's falling behind. And we have the overtime budget. We didn't use that much from, and quite honestly, we put it in because we did it last year as well. It seemed to work out.
Great. All right, anything from legal?
2 quick updates regarding the Historical Society and the cemetery issue. Title company hasn't been able to find title records. We're still looking into that. There was some internal discussion about, because it's in the care of the tax assessor, whether or not we could do quiet title and have the town acquired if we can't, if it ends up we can't find an owner. The second one on 903 Oak, we need authority on the appraiser. I know there was a question regarding whether this is the long or short form. We haven't heard back yet.
Okay. So that to get everybody up to speed, that the appraiser now can get into the property to do a full appraisal. And I was concerned because of the cost, and I recognize that the potential is there. You know, we want to protect ourselves in case there should be any litigation on how the price was determined. That I don't want a cursory appraisal. I'd like to see. I don't want to just get the Fannie Mae quick appraisal. I'd like to see for the price that they're suggesting. I think we should be getting the long form. So, sorry, that was it's tough when you work with appraisers all day. In my day job, I asked a couple of questions and they filled me in on where it was, and the numbers didn't make sense to me. So I recognize the level of detail may be something, but I want to make sure we get that level of detail.
Understood.
Great. Thanks. Jim, anything for us?
Yeah, there's two things I want to bring to your attention. There's two road opening permit applications that were submitted that were pretty substantial. One was on New Jersey American Water. They're coming in and replacing the water mains in Drexel in advance of our upcoming road project.
Good.
And PSE&G, they're coming in and do gas main replacement on a significant number of streets. I'll go from Lake Street, the entire length, 8th Street, the entire length, Colby Ave, the entire length, Edgewood Avenue, the entire length, Fordham Street, Howard Street, Baylor Street, and Leon from 5th to Fordham. Their plan is to come in, they're going to replace the main and do trench repair, and then after an acceptable period of time after that, they're going to come in and mill and resurface half the road where their gas main is. So all these roads technically in the end are going to have, half the roads are going to be repaved.
As long as it's not patching and it's half the road, that's good.
Yeah, it'll be trench repair initially, allow that time to settle, and then do the full mill and resurface on roadway half width, mill and resurface. And we're gonna give them a spec for the backfill to make sure that's sufficient, and they're gonna have to post escrow for inspections for the work.
You beat me to the punch. Well, I'm just going to say, since you're talking about roads and they cutting open of the roads and stuff, thank you for following up on Hartford Road. They did a nice job of doing that half a section. I guess the message is, anytime anybody opens something up, they're going to do half the road.
Yeah, that's what we told them, new standard.
But seriously, thank you, and I'm glad that they did a nice job on Hartford, that half a road, so.
Yeah. I'm not sure when PSE&G is going to get out there, but I'll get a schedule from them. New Jersey American Water, they should be out there actually in the next couple of weeks.
Now, will they give notices to all the residents?
Yeah, they have to, because they're going to mess, well, I'll find out what their notice is going to be, make sure it's acceptable. I mean, eventually they have to notice them because there's going to be a water switch over from their services. First they put the new main in, and then they, do all the new services, and then they abandon the old one. So I'll find out what their notice is, make sure people aren't too surprised.
So they're not doing laterals, they're just, or are they doing, they're not doing laterals?
No, they're doing new services, yes. They do the main.
To the house?
Well, up to the curb stop.
Okay.
Other than that, the active projects, the road program for 2015, the contractor was actually out today. They'll be back out tomorrow finishing up the punch list work, including one of the biggest issues was Main Street, a lot of the grass restoration that was over there. There was a lot of disturbance with the curb work. And I think they had some striping to do. They'll be on Cleveland tomorrow doing a couple of touch-ups. And other than that, the road program, the new one coming up, I would say we're on schedule. We should be, I'll be giving Jeff and Jerry the plans shortly for review, just to make sure they're okay with them, and then getting your authorizations advertised. Probably a couple weeks.
Good, stay on top. Thank you for doing that. Great. We have our reports from council. Dan, would you like to?
No report this evening, Mr. President.
Tyler, no report, thank you. Patty, anything from the plane?
No. Well, in California, no. Just to let you know, on May 13th, they were going to have I don't want to say an opening, but a celebration of the Delran Community Park. Last year, we were supposed to have it, and it was freezing cold and poured down rain. I talked to Bob Kennedy last week while I was out there. He said the weather looked good. I looked at the weather today. It's supposed to be terrible. So, I'm going to talk to Bob. I told him I'd call him tomorrow, and I think we'll call it like probably by Thursday. Last time we waited and waited to try to, trying to do something nice for the kids, for the park, to show off the park, but also to let, all the baseball teams. We had like a little band leading them in. We had big bouncies that we planned to have, and it's just, I think if it rains out, we're gonna just never do it again. We'll just let people come, and because this will be like almost year 3 by the time we've been putting this off. But I do think it would have been a very nice idea. And if we do have it, it'll start at 9 o'clock. The parade will lead all the teams in, and we'll have a little singing of the Star Spangled Banner, a little welcome. I thought maybe by you, Ken, just to welcome the people. And Tyler was kind enough to say he would do the sound for us. And then, like I said, we would set up the bounces, and the 4 fields that are named by the sponsors, we contacted them, and each of them were sending a representative to throw out the first ball. And we were going to have some vendors bring. Dunkin' Donuts was going to come. Some people were, maybe Chick-fil-A was going to bring the wheel, and then out of the snack bar, they might have sold some of Meadows ice cream and some of their own things. But we don't really know if that's going to be, I just want to let everyone know they're welcome to come. It'll be a nice day to show off the park. And we'll call it, and I guess Jimmy will put on the website whether it's on or off, right? And it's going to be, I think, much more low-key this year because of, the whole thing last year, some people can't make it this year. So we just thought we'd do something for the kids for the baseball, but I don't think it's meant to be. But Bob Kennedy is ordering signs. He has a banner to thank all the sponsors right now, so that all the sponsors that have contributed, we've had people give, our last donation was $15,000 from ShopRite. So we have all the sponsors at least on a canvas, one of those canvassy type signs for now. And then once we want to get really nice, very professional signs that the AA is looking at now to make sure that they all match and they all look nice. And then Jeff, I know Bob talked to you about the A-frame. I think we were talking about two different areas, but we can talk about that more later, that's it. But just look on the website for the events for Saturday, okay?
Great, good,
All
thank
right.
you. And we'll keep everyone posted on the township Facebook page as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So, a couple things. Are you gonna talk about Jake's Place? No, okay.
I got the same email.
Yeah. So the word came out today that their fundraiser was incredibly successful, and they did raise $40,000 at that event, and they're very excited, and that'll move the ball down the road a little bit for us as we go forward. Can't wait to hear from the county as well. I would ask Jeff, because there's still people calling about details on the trash. Maybe we get a detailed, something detailed. Maybe we can even get the do's and don'ts of that. And we'll put together maybe a graphic that we can post on Facebook and on the website, so that people can just go and say, hey, can I do this still? And somebody called me about wood. What can I do with wood? And if you 4 or 5 foot sections tied up.
Contact the Public Works Department, they'll answer it like that. But
Yeah,
okay,
but
we can do that.
But people.
They did put a handout in the can.
Yeah, we did. Well, we can do it again.
Maybe we grab the handout and we'll just.
Yeah, I got it back home.
Okay, maybe we'll scan that and just because, people forget, things get misplaced. So the last thing, council, we've had obviously we've had a couple of issues with keeping our appointees appointed in zoning. And we have an opening, and I did have a conversation with Randy Kinkus, who is a member of the planning board. He is an alternate member of the planning board. Planning board, unfortunately or fortunately, hasn't had many applications, and we haven't met more than 1 or 2 times in the last year. Randy has agreed to be a member of the zoning board if we need them, because we will need them. There's a couple of applications that are coming up, and one of the dates coming up is a conflict with one of the promotion ceremonies. I know specifically for the middle school, and some people wouldn't be able to be there. We need these folks appointed. So because they're meeting, even though we don't necessarily need him for this coming meeting, the meeting is Thursday, a week from Thursday, and we won't be having a work session. I'm just making sure. I can't see that, that's too far away. So I'm wondering if council has the appetite to appoint Randy as an alternate for the zoning board, since we need them so desperately.
Yeah, we don't meet again on the 23rd.
The 23rd. So their meeting is before that, the Thursday before that. This is Randy, who we appointed. Was Patty's recommendation, turned out to be smart, and worked with him for one meeting on the planning board, and just presents himself well. Has a great conversation. Tyler knows him. I've had a chance to speak with him at length, and so I'm asking. I know it's not our conventional way of doing this, but I just had an opportunity to speak with him this morning. And he agreed to do that, and I looked at the calendar and decided that, oh my goodness, we better talk about this tonight. So, if anybody has any questions or discussion,
You need a vote.
we do need a vote, yeah, to appoint him. Are you okay with that?
Yeah,
Any
I'm
questions?
fine.
Tyler, are you okay with that?
I know.
Very well.
Yeah.
So, how do we make the
And
appointment?
it's just for a motion, he would be appointed as alternate number. We have no alternate, so we'll put him as alternate number 1. And the term will be until 12/31/2018.
Right, okay. So I need a motion to appoint Randy Kinkus to alternate one on the zoning board with the term to expire 12/31/18.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Randy. Congratulations. So, and that's my report. Ken, what do you have for us tonight?
Well, now that you know. Just a couple things, real quick. I just want to, I want to thank the chief and Jeff and Jerry for supporting the STEM fair yesterday. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there, but I heard you guys all worked on, we had the car there, I'm assuming, and we had the leaf truck. And I think the green team also had the Tesla.
They did.
So I think that's great that we're all involved with that. The other thing I wanted to mention is tomorrow, if anybody's interested, Congressman MacArthur is speaking at the Kennedy Center in Willingboro at 6:30.
Town center.
Town center?
Yeah.
It should be an interesting evening. If you care about the whole health care issues going on up in Washington, tomorrow would be a good time to come out and voice your positives or negatives, because I think it's going to be addressed on both sides. So if anybody wants to show, it's a good thing. I know I care about my health care, so I'll probably go as well. So. But other than that,
Right.
that's it.
So,
Chickens, I think,
Oh, yeah.
chicken wings, thank you very
Yes.
much, and people are thrilled.
Yeah.
so, great lead-in. So I did get a chance because as middle schoolers will do, no, I don't really want to go. Yes, I want to go. So I ended up going to the STEM fair. It was incredibly well attended. I think even the folks there were surprised, the people who put it together. The Army had their robot, and the middle school robot was there, and they were duking it out. I think the Army won one. But they had great displays. They had 2 chickens there.
Oh, good.
From the green team, and they were talked about and petting and the whole thing. And the green team was also there and had some samples of the unfortunate ash trees that are going on, and had some great news for me and my neighbors. And I'm being facetious, it's not good news. But it was incredibly well attended. I was really surprised to see just what was going on. It was great. Fire department was there, our guys were there with the leaf truck, and the Army was there with this really neat truck that was all high tech, and it was well attended, well received, and a great turnout. So with that, unless anybody else has anything to add, I'll ask for a motion to go into public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're in public. We go around the room. You know the deal, Larry.
Sure.
Anything for us tonight?
Larry O'Leary, 154
I knew he
Oxford
was
Road.
going to.
Oh, wait a minute, I thought,
For the record, I have been in a meeting since the Tri-County, but I'll thank everyone again for the support for the event. It was well received in our town.
you guys did a great job.
We did well. We're reinvesting back into property, so things will be much improved this year. We're expecting a quiet 2017, no activity, but 2018 we will have the Burlington County Swim Championships, which used to be 9 clubs, goes up to 11 clubs, just because some dynamics. So we should be able to keep everybody, well, we've historically kept everybody on site, never had to use the property around us, but now we're up to 11 clubs. We'll have to see how the footprint works. We should still be able to keep them. We won't have to, I don't think we have to cross the way. Tri-County won't come back for another 30 years, so we're good there.
How many do you have in Tri-County?
36,
36.
but only 30 can host.
Okay.
So it's got to be a meter pool. 6 of the clubs have yard pools that can host. So drainage is okay. We got a lot of water, but we started the cleanups. We had a lot of rain on Thursday, I guess. There was rain on the ground, but there was a lot of rain. We got a lot of rain last week, so no, it looks good.
Good.
So last thing as a homeowner, 154 Oxford Road, I was told that, Al's on my street too, is, were you on the list?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're in the.
I was told 18.
Yeah, in the 17. So,
This year.
This year.
it's a 17 budget, but it gets done, so one's doing well.
No.
We're on,
No, we're doing 16 and 17 together, it's about 1.9 million, and it will, we've already finished, well, Fox Chase was done. It's going to include White Marsh, Oxford, Drexel, finishing Maine, and
Greenbrier?
Greenbrier.
and Greenbrier. So Greenbrier's the deletion item, or are they in?
It's a deletion item technically.
But Greenbrier should be included. So you are,
by the end of the year.
by the end of this, by the end of the year, he wants to know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Summer.
But the thing is, then we're not putting it out to Greenbrier then. We're not gonna put notices out until we know for sure it's gonna be in, right? I don't wanna put notices out and then find out that they're not getting it done. That would be the worst thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we need to get the bid specs back, and everybody else should be fine, will be fine. But there were, so rather than going, it takes so long that with Jim's help, we've accelerated everything to start happening right from the first meeting we had. And it will be the 2016 and 2017 road program done together this year. Okay?
That was Jeff.
Sorry?
That was Jeff, getting us started.
Jeff got us started, but I've been standing on Jim's neck pretty seriously lately. And he's
That's all on you now, Jim.
The torch is
So
the best.
thanks to Jim and Jeff. Jeff, I just assume is going to be a rock star.
So say thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
Thanks to the Jays. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Greg?
Yeah, Greg O'Leary, 17 Ray. Just a quick question. Just curious on the status of the snack bar at the community park.
Jim, we have CO.
It's up and running, yeah, the only thing left was just the grass restoration.
Oh, yeah, yesterday, the gate, that fence is still around and all yesterday.
The fence is up just to keep people off the areas of disturbance so they don't walk through it to the CDT. That's the only reason.
I didn't realize it was open.
Yeah, no, it's been open for,
A couple weeks at least.
yeah, at least a month.
Yesterday about noon, I drove through and one of the bathroom doors was open. I don't know what it's supposed to be, if it's not, but it was open.
Okay.
Open, unlocked, or open?
Open.
Oh, jeez.
There was a public works truck down in that area, so I might.
Oh, might didn't work.
Maybe they were working on it. Okay, thanks, Greg.
That's all.
Did you get to look inside of?
No, I didn't get out of my car.
Take a
I
look.
saw
I
the.
will ask Jerry tomorrow if he's having I mean, Jerry calls me anytime there's an issue with it, so I haven't heard, but I'll check with him tomorrow in case there's a problem.
No, I didn't hear if there was any issue.
It's really nice inside. They did a nice job.
Juliana Lyon, 33 Heather Glen Lane. I'd like to speak in regards to the Summerhill Drive issue. I think that what has been done along the curves on the road, when you're just driving the drive, has helped alleviate some of that with, I think there's alternate parking on those parts of the streets. My concern comes in when you're coming in off those side streets where cars are parked right up to the curb, you can't see past them. There's been an increase of families moving in, so there's a lot more kids and they're running around. So I don't know if pushing back the distance where cars can park from the curb, I don't know, if it's like 25 feet or putting yellow paint there, or increased enforcement would help alleviate some of the danger.
The distance from the corners to, you're
On
talking about Summerhill Drive, right?
Yeah.
Is this from the corners or the curves?
From when you're coming out on the side streets, the 25 feet on either side, when you're sitting there at the stop sign, there's cars either side of you and you can't see past
The
them.
cars that are parking on the side streets or on Summerhill Drive?
On
On
Summerhill.
Summerhill Drive.
Oh, okay, so they're parking
We
close to the
did
intersection.
move them back, but maybe we want to look and see with all the cars there, whether or
They're not
not
painted, right?
there's
I don't
enough
think
room
all
for
of
the
them are painted.
sites.
There are some areas that are, but
There's no
not all of
paint
them.
on those corners.
There isn't paint on?
On some of the corners, there's no yellow paint.
So on the corners that don't have paint should have paint off.
The standing law is that it's 25 feet from the intersection, paint or no paint. But, yeah, I mean, obviously paint
It would be
helps
nice to be painted
delineate.
on my
Well, there's areas,
We do use paint,
there's areas in Summerhill Drive that have paint.
yes.
So if there's paint there ought to be paint on the
Exactly.
whole road.
Let's use paint on the corners like we do.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying, it doesn't mean that it's not a law.
No, I got
Yeah.
you.
You paint on the road, actually, not on the.
No, it's on the curb.
Yeah, no, it's on the road.
It's on the road, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, yeah.
We'll take a look tomorrow.
We'll look into that.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Tom Lyon, also 33 Heather Glen Lane, and she got a ticket for parking too close to a corner in college.
Not here. This close, and they got me.
And Dad didn't pay that ticket. But just go to the point. The yellow is like Summerhill and Autumnwood, and they had the sign, no parking to the corner. And on the part coming straight in, away from the ball field, when you're near Rose Bay, Woodcrest, Weatherly, what's happening is cars are parking very, very close to the corners. And I actually called the department one day because the guy was right on it. I mean, I don't want to be Mr. Wilson, you know, but I did call because it was a serious issue. And my house backs right up to where I'm talking about, Jim, so if you ever come out, you have my email address from the zoning board, you can come to my house. If you're in the morning, I got coffee, you know, whatever. But it is an issue with, there is extra parking in the back. People don't want to use it because then you have to walk to their unit. So they park out there, which, okay, whatever. But when you have very, very early in the morning and late at night when everybody's home, that's when you have some of these issues. And the sight lines are bad. When the sun comes up in the morning and you're peeking out, there is the issues there. So I think a twofold thing might be where we paint like around Autumnwood and Summerhill, the yellow, no parking here to the corner, and we hit those couple intersections because there's a bus stop at Weatherly, Woodcrest, there's one at Rose Bay. People do go too fast. They're always going to go too fast unless there's enforcement. And then the other issue that I'm seeing, because I got roped into being on the homeowners association, is
Are you in there?
yeah. So you're not allowed to park on the side streets, okay? And I've lived there since 2010, and you go through these peaks and valleys of people don't park there, people do park there. So it's an enforcement issue. And one of the things I would like to do is with somebody from your department, and we work together and we get our residents to say, hey, listen, we're going to start targeting illegal parking again. Here's your fair warning. And then you guys come out and do whatever you have to do. And the other issue is, not that my youngest is 19 anymore, so a lot of people park 2 cars in a driveway and they're actually hanging out over the skirt and into the street. So kids in the morning walking to the bus stop have to walk out into the street. And I know there is an ordinance that's against the law. My point being is I don't want to just start calling and hammering people with tickets or warnings until we say, hey, listen, if you're doing this, you got to stop. Starting in June or whatever, the Delran PD is going to pick. Yeah, I mean, that's where we work with you guys in whatever manner we could. So we're giving everybody fair notice to be fair about things and let them clean it up. But the corners, and you can't regulate who's got a big pickup truck or a big car on the corners for the sight lines, but if we moved them back, I think that would alleviate a lot of the problems. And from the green team, when I lived in Winslow, I had 3 chickens, and it kept down ticks, bugs, and whatnot.
They say it's
And you'll be
phenomenal.
happy to know they were Daryl, and Larry.
Great, thank you. That's great.
But let me just say, and I think you're right, I think when we were first addressing Summerhill Drive, it was mainly around the other side with the sports field and all that. And
Yeah,
then-
it's
and
no
your-
parking
your
for a
side
long
wasn't-
way.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
side wasn't that bad when
Now,
we were first
it is
looking
now.
into it. Now it is, and they park all along there, and you don't have even, I don't think, any yellow lines over
No, there are none.
So we need to get the yellow lines on that side like we have on this side, you're right.
Yeah.
So Jeff will talk to
Yeah, I was
Jerry.
gonna say, why is he telling the chief?
Yeah.
I didn't know you painted in your spare time.
No, but he knows.
Well, it sounded like earlier Jim was gonna paint the corner.
Yeah.
That would have been a little expensive, so we'll have Public Works do it.
Hey, there you go.
Jim and I will watch from my deck, having a cup of coffee.
I'll
bring the donuts.
Or in the afternoon, iced tea.
Anything else, Mr. Lyon?
I'm done, thank
Very
you.
good, thank you. Chuck, anything?
Nothing.
Okay, so I need a motion to come out of public.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And unless anyone else has any other issues, is for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We adjourn.
And Mr.